My name is Dr. Raymond Harlall, World Civility Ambassador, aside my colleague, Dr. Reverend Ambassador L. Randolph Brooks. And we are here discussing his book on patriotism, and we're in chapter 5 right now, and in chapter 5 you touch on how to model patriotism, and I'll read the first paragraph here. There are 4 steps that must be identified in order to gain a patriotic ideal. As you understand each phase, you will begin to embrace the idea that patriotism is the only, and you have only in capital here, only concept that will allow our country, community, tribe, and family to have longevity. And step 1, you spoke about the fool. You don't know what you don't know. And can you speak to this?
We'll talk about that. Listen, we've tried to break it down into bite-sized chunks.
Yes.
And when we've been taught, when we've been institutionalized, the reason I smile is because I'm now talking about the institution of patriotism.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Brooks, isn't it being institutionalized? Let's not let the word fool you. There are only 2 institutions that have been formed in the history of the world.
Okay.
The first institution was the church.
Yes.
The second institution was the institution of marriage.
Yes.
Until there are no other institutions formed. But when institutionalized, is taking a framework, taking a thinking process, and making that a paradigm so that people begin to think that way so that we can profit from them. I'm going to institutionalize prison systems.
Yes.
I'm going to institutionalize the education system.
Right.
I'm going to institutionalize politics. Well, those are institutions that we've been told are good for us. Well, I'm going to beat them at their own game, and I'm going to call this the institution of patriotism, but it's one that frees you from institutionalizing, and it's not an institution within itself. Again, it's a lifestyle, but I've labeled it the institution of patriotism so that we confound the wise and set the foolish to themselves. We confound the wise, and the foolish shall be set to themselves. And so when we say the fool, you don't know that you don't know. Well, if you don't know, you just don't know. Dr. Harlall, I'm reminded of when I first played football. I did not play Little League football and growing up. I didn't start to play football until the 9th grade in high school.
Wow.
Although I'd watched the game, I did not know all the mechanics of the game. So I didn't know that I didn't know. I didn't know what a 3-point stance was, what a 4-point stance was. I didn't know how many minutes were in each quarter. I didn't know what the tackling procedures were. I didn't know if I put my hands on you to tackle you within a 5-yard line, I'd be called for holding if I was on offense. Or if I touched you after 5 yards you ran, and I'm on defense and you're on offense, that's called interference. I didn't know these things, and I didn't know that I didn't know. In life, we didn't get a manual when we were born. So I just don't know that after the slap on my butt and I begin to breathe and cry and whine, what's next? And sometimes it's called trial and error. And you don't know that you don't know. And that's really a foolish place and a foolish mentality to be in. And we as a people group, we as the human race, we as civility leaders, as you are, we are commanded to teach those that don't know. We recognize those that don't know that they don't know. In other words, patriotism is something that's not taught. Patriotism is not something that's innate or we get it by osmosis. I can take a book, my book, for example, on the institution of patriotism, stick it under my pillow, put my head down at night, and sleep, and in the morning, I've got it. I am now patriotic. Doesn't work quite that way. I have to get into a system. And I have to learn and I have to start to read this book because it's the only one of its kind.
Yes.
And as I read it, I will begin to know that I don't know. I'll begin to find concepts and precepts about being unified, being untied, cultural divisions, tribal divisions, community divisions, family divisions, divisions even within myself.
Yes.
My country is holding me down, I'm holding myself down. My country is lifting me up, I should lift my country up. I didn't know that. I don't know that I don't know. We don't want you to be a fool. We don't want you to be foolish. That's what Dr. Harlall and I want for you. But I submit to you that the government system you're in, the political system you're in, the educational system you're in, wants to keep you and have you remain a fool, for they can profit from you being a fool. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen any longer. For you are not a fool. In this day, you shall not say, I don't know, that I don't know any longer. You shall begin to learn. And with learning, you shall begin to prosper. And with prosperity, you will begin to change. And with change, people around you, your sphere of influence, will begin to change. And when that happens, other spheres of influence will begin to change. And before long, you will live in a world that you've always only dreamed about. Wouldn't that be wonderful? These are not hypothetical. In my household, that's what exists today. I invite you to come visit me, and you will see. You'll see that we actually put into practice what I'm speaking here. This is not something I wrote about and just want to sell a book. I could care less, and I mean that, if you ever buy this book. For it's going to be in the library. It'll be put online. You'll have access to it. So if I profit from it or not is not relevant to me. If you want your own copy, great, then buy it. But if you don't, you want to get the same concepts, I would be a fool for not making sure that I provided it to all of those who want it. Now, if you choose you don't want it, that's your prerogative. I hope you don't make that decision. I pray you don't make that decision. I sincerely trust that you'll make the decision to never again be a fool.
Wow. Step 2, Dr. Brooks, you said need to be shown. And you don't know what you know.
Many times we're taught and we're given lessons. A baby, when you're feeding them, learns to suck the milk from the bottle when a mother or father is holding it.
Yes.
If you go out and you learn to walk and you're playing one day and you learn to just walking along and something frightens you, a bug, a cat, a dog, or something, a loud noise, you begin to run.
Yes.
Nobody taught you to run. You didn't know that you could run. You just instinctively run. But until that moment, you didn't know that you knew.
Wow, that's so powerful. Yeah.
Well, all along in your education, we as a society are required, are remanded, are charged with teaching you certain concepts, teaching you certain precepts, teaching you certain action items. And we teach them, and whether you paid attention or not, deep down, you still know them. But you don't know that you know them because you've never put them in practice. Much like in government, we'll teach you what the Constitution says. And you go, okay, it doesn't really apply to me.
Yes.
And one day, you want to say something. And someone says, go ahead. And you go, oh, no. And they say, but Dr. Harlall, the Constitution gives you freedom of speech.
Yes.
You go, really? I didn't know that. But you really did. But yes, you did. You were taught it, but yes, you did. So many times your education, your thought process, the knowledge you have will be suppressed for someone else's gain. And they want you to think that you don't know it, even though you really do. Have you ever been told you'll never amount to anything.
Yeah.
Don't do this or don't do that because we as a family have never done that. Don't dream because you'll get hurt. All of these different adages, because the person telling you may have been hurt,
Yes.
may have not had their dreams fulfilled. But you have the distinct possibility to make it happen for you. And you just don't know that you know. And one day somebody pours into you. One day you pick up a book by Dr. Harlall and you read it. You say, I can do this. It's on civility. I can love my neighbor. You pick up my book on the institution of patriotism. And you say, I believe in that. Wow. I've always felt that, but I really didn't know it.
Yes.
But I always felt it deep down here. Oh, that's what that meant. So that's what we're talking about. So we're going to put you in context with all of these different areas, these 4 different areas, and expose them. See, we're in the business of exposing the lie, but watch this, and exposing the truth.
Yes. Yes.
Both have to be exposed.
Unlearn to relearn.
Unlearn to relearn. And then you get to choose what you want to do. But we take the excuses away.
Yes, sir.
But we expose both the lie and the truth.
In step 3, you talk about need to be taught. And you know that you don't know. So this is realization as to, hey, I'm limited.
Yeah, you don't know that you know.